The biggest mystery of the Chicago Bears season so far has been what happened to Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet. Close to zero production from the players supposed to be the Bears' two top weapons. We're putting them on the side of the milk carton today and figuring out where they've gone and what this Bears offense is doing.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lorin Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Bears. You can like Locked On Bears on Facebook. You can join the Locked On Bears Facebook group for even more Bears talk. And make sure you hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel to keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. On the show today, we dive into what we've seen on the All-22 tape through two games this season to try and figure out why Cole Kmet has 2 catches for, 4 yards this season, and why Cole Kmet has 0 catches for 0 yards this season. We'll find out how much is the player themselves not getting open, not getting, windows for Justin Fields to be able to throw them the ball. How much is how they're being used in each play call, the types of routes they're running, and whether that's setting them up or not setting them up for production, and how much of it's just, the offense itself not throwing the ball a lot and not having a ton of overall passing production as a group. We'll wrap up kind of looking at some of the other factors involved, the other pieces involved in this offense. Byron Pringle, Velus Jones still coming back at some point in here. The Equanimeous St. Brown and Dante Pettis roles as well. Some general sort of offensive thoughts coming with this process. But I was really curious to kind of go through and say, okay, are Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney getting open all the time, and is Fields not seeing them? Have they just been unable to get open and covered all the way? And the kind of things that you can't just see on the regular broadcast tape, really kind of going into the All-22 film here. And so I want to start with Darnell Mooney, and then we'll get to Cole Kmet next, because going into this season, right, both Mooney and Kmet were supposed to be sort of the two most known commodities as far as the pass catchers go. We knew the Bears had talent at running back, and we were excited for what Justin Fields could do, but we knew Mooney would be the top wide receiver, Kmet would be the top tight end, and the other wide receivers and tight ends were kind of to be determined. We're going to figure out who was good and who wasn't among that mix, and yet these are the two guys that have not produced. And so I suspected and was able to confirm that, it's not like all of a sudden Darnell Mooney just got bad at wide receiver. Like when you go through this Bears All-22 tape, Darnell Mooney is open, right? He's not open. He's not wide open on every single play. There are plays when he's covered, but there are plenty of plays where he is open. However, I also don't think he's being utilized super well to his full capacity. I think a lot of it has been the role he's been used in the offense, and then some of it has been Fields not being able to get to him in his read and his progression. A lot of times it's on plays, when Fields ends up getting sacked or having to scramble, or he's just throwing somewhere else on the play. Darnell Mooney is open elsewhere, but just not in that spot in his progression. So, I think a few examples, right? One of the ways that Mooney, I think, is not being utilized to his full capacity is that oftentimes, I can't put a percentage number on it. I went through every play and took some notes on most of them, but I didn't count, okay, this percentage of plays, he was doing this percentage of plays, he was wide open or whatever. But there are a number of plays here, a decent percentage, where his responsibility on the play is just run deep. And oftentimes, him running deep is to then create space where he once was for other receivers' routes to fill that space. Usually he's got some kind of off coverage, someone who's trying to take away the deep stuff and make sure he doesn't get open deep. And his design is to just run deep and take that coverage defender out of the position, and maybe also draw the attention of the safeties so that you have Dante Pettis, Equanimeous St. Brown, whoever, working that short to intermediate area underneath. He's clearing it. Mooney is clearing out that space. And certainly if on that clear out route he gets open, Fields might throw it to him, but more often than not, it's not likely. He's not getting, press man coverage that he can just blow by and be open on the deep route. Now, there have been deep routes that Darnell Mooney was open on. A few of them stood out to me. There was one. It was the play where Justin Fields against the Packers, where Justin Fields threw it to the left side of the field to, I think it was Equanimeous St. Brown on like a little comeback route. And I think it was the first passing completion of the game to Equanimeous St. Brown. Cole Kmet was blocking on that play, and Darnell Mooney's in the slot, and he gets press coverage at the line of scrimmage and just blows by his defender, and he is wide open. I'm not saying it would be a touchdown, but you're looking at a 25+ yard down an accurate pass is a pretty easy catchable ball there. So you have times when he's getting open on the deep routes, but sometimes he's more just the decoy to create space for other players. There's other times when they're just using him on little underneath routes. There was one, it's a little whip route that he ran open on one of the plays that Justin Fields was sacked on. And I think there was another one where they checked down to David Montgomery, and Darnell Mooney's in the slot, and he helps chip on the defensive end and then releases into the flat. Like, it doesn't feel to me like Mooney is being utilized he's not being prioritized in any way in this offense. He'll be the decoy. He'll run some underneath stuff. Like, they're plugging him in wherever he can be used, but they're not necessarily using him to where they can get the ball in his hands, right? He's not running, those nice deep crossing routes that we've seen teams hit the Bears defense with a few times, or he's not running the deep out routes. Usually it's a different player prioritized more in the order of the passing progression. And that's not to say that like it's all that, right? It's sort of a combination of the three. So like it's not fully blame Getsy. He's blowing it with Mooney and can't figure out how to use Darnell Mooney. No, there's some of that. I think they can be smarter about how they use Mooney, but that's not the whole story. There are some plays when he's not open. Receiver's not going to get open on every route that he runs. And there are plays that's part of the story too. And then I think there are plays when he's just purely the decoy type player, and there are plays when he then is open, and for whatever reason, Fields is either finding another open receiver or under pressure and gets sacked or has to get out of the pocket and can't stay in there and deliver the throw to Mooney when he's getting open. All of it, I think, is to suggest that I think Mooney's production will get there, right? This is not like a player that's just never open and has no shot at getting the ball. I think if the offensive line and Fields were both better at pocket presence and holding a clean pocket and going through these progressions a little bit quicker, like I think the balls would be there for Mooney, and I feel more confident that they're going to be there at some point, because I think the Bears will make it an emphasis. Matt Eberflus has already talked about this a little bit of trying to do more to get their weapons in a better position to be successful, and I think we will see more of an emphasis on Mooney getting some opportunities moving forward. And so I'm not saying like, hey, start him in fantasy next week because it's going to be instantly fixed, but I don't think it's going to be a season-long problem of, hey, Mooney's never going to get any production and he was just overrated or whatever you might think. I think he's going to be fine. I'm not sure if I can say exactly the same for Cole Kmet. I'm not sounding the alarm on Cole Kmet, but I think I'm less confident that his role is directly going to change and directly lead to a lot more production. I don't think he's necessary. It's not necessary that he's been terrible, but I do think there are some circumstances fighting against him here in this Bears offense right now that I think will continue to limit his production. Maybe not to zero, but puts a cap on how much I think he'll produce this season. We'll kind of get into what we've learned about Cole Kmet through 2 games this season and how his role is changing next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. As you gear up for the fall, you're going to need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. You can add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile as well and spread the word that you're hiring. so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Then they've got simple tools like screening questions that make it really easy to focus on the candidates that have just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires compared to the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So while I think Darnell Mooney is likely to start producing again soon, maybe not 1,000 yards, maybe not, we'll see it this way, maybe not 100 yards a game type of huge production right away. I'm less optimistic for an instant jump in production from Cole Kmet. And that's not to say purely that I think, he's a bum, he's a bust, and he's worthless for the Bears. I do think he's been struggling, but I also think his role in this offense right now has been a big limiting factor in his production in a way that I'm not certain is going to change. That so often when you watch Cole Kmet on the tape, so first of all, there are plays when Cole Kmet's open. Let's be clear about that. He is not locked down in coverage on every single play. Great example, if you want to go back to the Bears game, the first passing play of the game that the Bears had attempted is the one where Fields is under center and the Bears, the snap is fumbled between Fields and Mustipher, and blame Mustipher, blame Fields, whatever you want to do. Not important to this part of the discussion. The snap is fumbled. Fields has to pick it up and kind of just run for it for 2 yards. That was a designed play action passing play. And when you watch the routes, even though the fumble maybe changed how some of the players may have reacted to the play, Cole Kmet is open either way. I really think that is a completed pass for a first down to Cole Kmet if that is a clean snap and the play action operates as it was supposed to. And part of the reason you can tell is because you come back in the fourth quarter, the Chicago Bears ran the exact same play again. And but they flipped it to the other side of the field. That was the throw. If you might remember, there's one where Fields rolls out to his right, loads up, and just fires off a moonshot to Darnell Mooney. Pun, I guess, not intended when I started saying a rocket. He shoots a bomb to Mooney and overshoots him a little bit over the middle of the field. That was the exact same play they ran on the first passing play of the game where Fields fumbled it. The second time they ran it, Cole Kmet was not open, but you could see the same pre-snap motion, the same formation, just flipped, same players on the field running the same routes that they were. And I think that was something they liked in the matchup and tried to set up. Fields didn't really have an option on that play and just had to sort of bomb it to basically a safe throwaway deep downfield. But regardless, there are plays in there where Cole Kmet is open. The problem is so often when he's running a route, he is helping in pass protection first. He is chipping on the defensive end a lot. Again, I don't have like a number, a percentage to give you because I didn't like specifically count, on 10 of his 14 plays that he was in on passing plays, I don't have the exact number here, but like when I go across my notes, it's like he is on these passing plays, he is blocking or he is chipping and then releasing into the flat. So like at best, he's either a underneath curl late in the play or just a short little check down to the flat, right? He's not getting a lot of those opportunities anywhere close to downfield. I would love to see like some kind of tracking of his routes, if like those next gen stats of just all the routes of players run, because I don't think you would see a lot of downfield from Cole Kmet through these first two games. Now, obviously the Bears just haven't passed a ton, but Cole Kmet's run, I think, 32 routes, and he stayed in a pass block a handful of times in there as well, but more so, on a lot of those routes, he's staying into chip, and so he's late getting into his release because they're asking him to help the offensive line because the offensive line needs that help. And that's where I come back to it being not necessarily that Cole Kmet has been awful, but that he's probably going to have to keep helping the offensive line on these chips, and the routes you can run after a chip are going to be a bit limited in your ability to get downfield and to create separation because you're so late getting into the play. And so that's going to limit some of Cole Kmet's production. Then you have the dropped pass that he had against the Packers that just was awful in so many ways. There was coverage closing in on him, but you can see the ball hits Cole Kmet not long before, but early enough before the linebacker gets to Cole Kmet. It's a pure drop. It's not a pass breakup by Devondre Campbell. And on that play, Cole Kmet jumps for no reason. The ball comes to his chest, but he still jumps up in the air and then tries to catch it lower, which is terrible technique. He also lets the ball come into his body instead of sticking his hands out and going and attacking the ball in the air, going towards the ball. He lets the ball come to his body, which is also very poor technique for a tight end. So I do have concerns that Cole Kmet is not progressing in that way. I just don't think that he's doing everything right. It doesn't mean it's all his fault, but I think he's struggling a little bit, and the routes he's being asked to run are not particularly downfield, so I think that's going to limit his ability to have all that great of production in the passing game for the foreseeable future. Now, there's always a chance they change up the game plan completely and say, you know what, screw it, we're not asking Cole Kmet to block much anymore at all. We're going to run him up the seams and make him a vertical passing kind of tight end. That's always in the realm of possibility, but through 2 games, that has not been what they've opted to do with Kmet, or really all that much of the tight end position. They had that nice completion to Ryan Griffin on the seam play when the Bears ran that no huddle. And they did have Cole Kmet also running an outside seam, but he was totally covered on that play. There are plays when he can't get open because he's not a dynamic athlete at the tight end position. He's a little bit slow. He's a little bit not like a dynamic route runner, but he's big. So you want him to be able to catch contested targets. But then he has the drop pass that he did on that out route that really should have been maybe fairly easily caught in that situation. Or you get in the red zone, one of his red zone routes, he just ran like a curl into the linebacker and turned and faced the quarterback. And it's just it's tightly draped coverage. And I don't think Fields fully trusts to throw that into that tight window, fully trusts that a guy like Cole Kmet's going to be able to cover it. So I'm skeptical about how that production is going to increase, especially because I don't think he's been very good as a blocker either. When he stayed in the pass protect, he's had some issues there. Or the one catch that Darnell Mooney had against the Packers, the RPO bubble screen, Cole Kmet tries to set up a block for him in space, does not block the defender well at all, and that defender makes the tackle for a 4-yard loss. I'm much more concerned about him as a blocker in terms of where the development hasn't been there. I think the lack of pass catching production has been a little bit more role based, but the blocking is problematic at this point, especially in the passing game, but at times in the running game as well. I think it was his block that helped blow up the 4th and goal play that didn't end up scoring a touchdown on the quarterback power run by Fields. So, I'm trying to be gentle with Kmet. I'm trying to be patient with Kmet. It takes tight ends a lot of time to grow and develop, and I do think I'm willing to blame a lot more of this on scheme and role and position in this offense than purely just him not being able to get open. Although there are times he's open, there are times he's not. I think Darnell Mooney, by comparison, open a lot more often than Cole Kmet. But Darnell Mooney given more opportunities to get open downfield, whereas Kmet had a lot more opportunities to just help in the block, check into the flat. And I think that's ultimately going to be some of what limits his passing production until they change how they're deploying him from the tight end position, which could. We don't want to just assume that they're going to keep doing everything exactly the same with him, but it does feel like closer to a necessity for this offensive line that might persist here, lingering moving forward. I think there's more to this bigger picture offensive look, though, on how the Bears can get more, not only from those two, but from their passing game as a whole. We'll kind of get into some of the other questions we have about the rest of the passing game and these other receivers next on Locked On Bears. We here at the Locked On Podcast Network love our friends at BetOnline. They're going to be the fastest and easiest way to get all of your sports betting needs all season long. Not only for the Bears and for the over/under, the spread, the money line straight up, but all of your sports betting needs, all the league developments, game matchups, news, including each and every NFL game, plus the upcoming basketball season coming up on the baseball playoffs, hockey season right around the corner, soccer, tennis, boxing, all the combat sports, golf, you name it. BetOnline is going to be the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite sports, all the wagering information you need, including live in-game betting that can make things even more fun on your Sundays. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action you need to know. BetOnline, where the game starts. The Bears obviously need Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney to be more productive in order for this offense to thrive at its best. But I also think we really haven't seen the full capacity of offensive firepower that this team has. Like, the obvious thing is that Velus Jones has yet to play in a game. This hamstring injury continues to be a problem. We still haven't really heard much about it or how long it's supposed to keep him out. The fact that the team has not placed him on injured reserve to start the season suggests that they were anticipating he would be back within 4 games. Otherwise, IR could keep him out for a minimum of 4 games and could have been using the roster spot elsewhere. So that would presume that perhaps this week against the Texans could be a timeline he could be back, or perhaps week 4 would still be earlier than the minimum of 4 that he would have had to miss on IR. So in theory, we're a week or 2 away from Velus Jones, unless this hamstring injury continues to get worse. And he's a guy that, the Bears are going to try and get the ball into his hands in space, not necessarily ask him to be the perfect downfield runner just yet, but throw that bubble screen, run that jet sweep, the little something over the middle and underneath just to get him with some momentum and let him work with the ball in his hands afterwards. I think that's a great possibility for some more production in this offense. And other teams are not going to have tape on Velus Jones. So the Bears can really unveil him as a secret weapon and switch up his role in a lot of different ways and throw things at other teams that they might not be able to prepare for quite as well as some of the other players on the team. But the other guy that's been missing in action this season unexpectedly is Byron Pringle. He missed the entire preseason, and so we thought there might be, it might take time for he and Justin Fields to maybe get on the same page, with terms of like timing and route running and stuff like that. But it's taken Byron Pringle time to even get on the field, right? When they signed Byron Pringle, and we talked about it during the offseason, we were anticipating that, Mooney would be the number 1 wide receiver. Pringle would probably be the number 2. Velus Jones would probably be the number 3, but a competition there with, Equanimous St. Brown and N'Keal Harry and Tajay Sharp or whatever. But we were pretty sure it was Mooney 1, Pringle 2, and probably Velus Jones 3. And through 2 games so far, Byron Pringle has run 8 routes. He's been on the field for 8 passing plays through 2 games. I think it was 4 in each game. He is playing fewer total snaps than Equanimous St. Brown and Dante Pettis. Through 2 games, Byron Pringle has been the 4th wide receiver on the depth chart. And I don't have a perfect answer for why. He's not on the injury report at all after was it a hamstring injury for him too this preseason? So presumably you would think then he's healthy. Maybe he's not 100%, but the Bears aren't reporting it as an injury. So it has to be a certain percentage of Pringle, right? I mean, it's not like he's struggling to get through practice because he's injured, right? So I don't know that injuries are his health currently is the full explanation there. Part of it is, missing the entire preseason. He wasn't out there catching passes from Justin Fields. So, is he still learning the playbook? Like, do they just not have, is he just not up to speed, mentally enough to be on the field for more plays? It seems like on paper and from what we saw from him in Kansas City, he should be more talented than Equanimous St. Brown and Dante Pettis. I mean, those guys do have talent, but they haven't proven as much as Byron Pringle has been. I mean, he's been a fairly dynamic and explosive playmaker at times in that Kansas City offense, and it sure feels like the Chicago Bears could use one of those. And he's, again, evidently healthy enough to not be on the injury report and to play. I think he played a total of 24 snaps this season, 8 passing plays, 16 running plays. So he's on the field some. So then why can't he be on the field more, right? If it's a health thing, why is he only then why is he not the injury report? Or if it's like a playbook thing, he knows enough to be on the field for those 24 plays or those 8 passing plays, but not enough to be like the number 2 wide receiver? Or is he like sometime in the doghouse or, somehow in some way? I mean, it just, I don't have a good explanation for why Byron Pringle isn't playing more. It's not like, I mean, I think Equanimous St. Brown has been a great blocker this season, and that's why he's the number 2 wide receiver. I will give you that EQ and Justin Fields seem to be on the same page and that you can put him there. But and Dante Pettis had the scramble drill, broken down play touchdown that was nice against San Francisco, but he was already playing ahead of Byron Pringle before that play, and otherwise he hasn't really done a ton in the regular season yet. So you can start to make up reasons and examples, but all of it doesn't add up to what we expected. Either way, it's not meeting the expectations that we had for Byron Pringle this season as somebody who felt like they could be, not a 1,000-yard receiver by any means, but could be that second most productive wide receiver, that could be a vertical speed threat, a guy that can make some plays with the ball in his hands. And we just haven't had any of it yet. Maybe that means there's hope then that he can be better from here, that he can get either healthier or better understand the offense or get more up to speed and grow into a bigger role in this offense and give you more offensive production then and give you another receiver who can get open more consistently or whatever it might need to be. But it's still weird. The Bears are missing something there that we were expecting a bit more of. We're also only a couple weeks away from N'Keal Harry leaving injured reserve. I think that would be again after week 4. So that's another possibility here kind of coming down the line. So there's room for the Bears offense and the Bears passing game in particular to keep getting better. I think we will see the Bears pass the ball more. I think we will see the Bears prioritize Darnell Mooney a little bit more in the passing game. I do think some of that's on Luke Getsy on where he's putting these players in these plays. He even admitted in week 1 that it was a near interception that Justin Fields threw targeting. I think he was targeting Equanimeous St. Brown, but Luke Getsy said after the game or after during the week that was his fault because that was a play that they had always practiced with Pettis in that role, and Equanimeous St. Brown had never run that route on that play with Fields, and so the timing was off because he's used to a different receiver on that play. So I think we can fairly say some rookie play caller mistakes from Getsy here and there. And of course, Fields deserves some of the blame as well. We talked about it on yesterday's podcast, right? How much do you blame Fields and what he's going through versus the rest of the offense? We went through some of the all-22 on that. So make sure you go take a listen to that podcast if you have not already. We're just trying to get a sense of what's going on with this Bears team and how we can better understand what we're seeing on the field on Sundays. That's always the goal here of the Locked On Bears podcast. So I hope you'll hit that subscribe button to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Really appreciate you making Locked On Bears your first listen today. Here on the Locked On Podcast Network, we are your team every day. Tomorrow will be our Crossover Thursday podcast with our friends from Locked On Texans. We'll find out how things are going for Lovie Smith and Davis Mills and why I think the Texans see the Bears as a team that they can beat and that they can use to right their ship and get back on track, and why the Bears see the Texans as a team that the Bears can beat to kind of ready the ship and get back on track. So that should be kind of a good, fun back and forth with them. I hope you'll come back for that tomorrow. And of course, come back for your next opportunity to bear down.